There have been a number of iconic individual playoff performances in NBA history. MJ's flu game, him scoring 63 points over the Celtics, or Isaiah Thomas scoring 25 points in a quarter of the NBA Finals, even on an injured ankle if he actually was injured. And while this may not be on the same level of all those all-time great performances, it's damn near close in what will go down as a historic playoff performance by an individual player, and witnessing it in real time was a thing of beauty, seeing Jimmy Butler go absolutely bonkers and putting his shorthanded Miami Heat team on his back to taking a commanding 3-1 series lead over the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks, who had just gotten their superstar in Giannis Antetokounmpo back in the lineup. Jimmy was on one, and we are all just living in his world. But this isn't new for someone like Jimmy Butler, and while yes, Jimmy maybe isn't the top tier of superstars in the NBA with the likes of players as Giannis, Steph, LeBron, or Kevin Durant, etc., there is something to be said about Jimmy Butler that separates himself from the rest of the competition that makes him such a unique specimen. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future video, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, as a die-hard Bulls fan, seeing Jimmy go off and succeeding on another team even 6 years after the trade still hurts. Although at the same time, I also recognize that he likely never would have succeeded in Chicago because the organization, the coaching staff, and front office at that time was crap. They didn't know how to build around Jimmy, so they moved on from him and chose coach Fred Hoiberg instead, which we all know was a mistake. But the reason Jimmy wouldn't have worked for a team like Chicago, or Minnesota, or even Philadelphia for that matter, was because Jimmy Butler has incredibly high standards. He's very picky about the environment that is around him. If you don't play hard and match his level of intensity, he'll let you know about it. If you don't put your best foot forward and give maximum effort, he doesn't want to work with you. If he feels the team isn't being coached hard enough, yeah, he'll let the public know about that as well. Striving for excellence is the name of the game for Jimmy Butler, who has had to work his butt off to achieve everything he got after being deserted by his parents as a teen and not being heavily recruited as a prospect out of high school and the very last pick in the first round of the NBA draft. Jimmy has his flaws, don't get me wrong. His game is by no means perfect, especially in today's NBA that is centered around three-point shooting. But the difference between Jimmy Butler and a lot of other stars around the NBA is the fact that he's a fierce competitor, one that will give it his all. And while he may not be as skilled of a scorer as, say, someone like Kevin Durant or Steph Curry, or possess the all-around skills of a player like LeBron James, he makes up for it with his maximum effort on the court and always looking to get better on both ends of the floor. And that is especially the case when it comes to the postseason. Even if Jimmy won't admit it, playoff Jimmy is a real thing. He lives for these moments and has come through in the clutch multiple times in the postseason throughout his career. Take these playoffs as an example. Jimmy Butler, facing elimination in the final play-in game against the Chicago Bulls, took over in the second half, scoring 22 points in the second half alone, getting multiple stops on his own, and driving the basket for multiple and-one possessions to put the Bulls away. Fitting that he went off against Zach LaVine, who the Bulls received in return as one of the pieces of the Jimmy Butler trade. And even after the Heat made that incredible finish to advance into the playoffs as the 8th seed, no one, and I really mean no one, thought the Heat would truly make any noise against the Milwaukee Bucks, not against a Bucks team that just finished with the best regular season record and has looked locked in all season long. Well, we should have known. Never count out Jimmy Butler, who is always locked in when it comes to the biggest moments, especially when he's the underdog. Every time you think Jimmy is done or starting to regress as he gets older, he comes right back like he never left, and sometimes better than before. So far in these playoff series, against one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, Jimmy is putting up 36.5 points per game, which leads the league in the playoffs thus far in the postseason, 36.5 points per game on an insane 62% shooting on over 21 shot attempts. He's even shooting the 3-ball well, which has never really been a part of his game, at 53% on over 4 attempts. True shooting percentage of 71%. You simply cannot get more efficient than that. As Jimmy has said, he is stupidly locked in right now, and you can't disagree with him with this kind of performance that he's been putting on. Game 4 was particularly special, with the Heat having the opportunity to go up 3-1 over the best team in the NBA, and despite Giannis returning, Jimmy Butler took things to another level that we have never seen before from Jimmy. With no Tyler Hero, the Heat's second scoring option, and Bam Adebayo throughout most of this playoff series has been kind of underwhelming, he puts the team on his back, putting up 56 points on 19 for 28 shooting, getting to the foul line at will, crashing the glass, hitting threes, big bucket after big bucket to bring the Heat from being down double digits in the third quarter, all while still playing lockdown defense. And he gets the Heat to take the victory, and now making the Heat the heavy favorites to win the series. Now, the series isn't over. and I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucks actually came back from being down 3-1 to take the series. I have a hard time seeing Giannis go out like this in the first round, but I also have a hard time seeing Jimmy Butler just rolling over and folding. Not when he's this focused, this on point with his shooting, and also realizing he only has a few more chances for a shot at a championship before he starts declining. Jimmy wants this, and he wants it more than the Bucks do with this level of effort and energy on the court. And in a league where a lot of young players maybe aren't taking the game as seriously, aren't maximum effort players, don't have that dog-like mentality as guys like to say, seeing the hustle, the grit, and the effort from Jimmy Butler is truly a lost art these days. You look at players in NBA history like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, who strive for greatness, wanting nothing more than to win and excel at every turn. That's the type of mentality Jimmy Butler has when he's on the court. Obviously not on the same level as guys like MJ or Kobe, but the same type of competitive mentality and the will to take over games when their team needs them to. We should have known this was coming, instead of just ruling out and writing off the Heat automatically simply because you don't see an 8 seed take out a 1 seed very often. When it comes to Jimmy Butler, you can never write him off, especially for a guy who thrives off being counted out. That's been his whole life, since he was a child being written off by his mom and left for being homeless. Jimmy Butler is on another level, and I can't wait to see what the rest of his playoff run has in store for him after that incredible performance the other night. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.